Welcome to For Those About to Brawl, the MMA and boxing podcast from Manchester, England. This show is brought to you by the double team of Den and Chutney. The podcast will focus on all things combat, including reviews, previews, opinions, and everything in between. Chutney, how are you doing on this fine day today?
Bad.
Uh-oh. Why?
Although I feel like I'm trying to make up for something with sticking out my new microphone in the screen more than yours.
And I clocked. I think we're on different levels, but I think
yeah,
we're okay.
we are. Definitely are.
No.
I am having a loft conversion in my home at the moment.
Yep.
It involves building a whole new floor on my house. It's been the worst rain of the year, probably. My roof is more open than it possibly could be. I'm sleeping in the front room anyway. And last night, my wife is away this weekend, fortunately. Last night, I'm having like a dream of a beautiful waterfall, like just drifting down a lovely river or something like that. And then I start to come to and realize it's because there is water pouring into my house. I go upstairs. It's just carpets are sodden with water from outside. I have to unload buckets, like these massive builders buckets. I have to get smaller buckets to empty them so they can be filled up more. I have to go back to my dining room to save everything that's getting soaked. And
So has it gone down into the ground floor?
Yeah, down 2 floors basically. And then it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Then I know the problem's at the top, so go outside, up the ladder into the scaffolding.
At what time?
4 a.m. Well, this is about 5 a.m. after I've done, no, probably about 4:30, 5 a.m. Yeah. After I've done all the stuff inside, because I have to take it floor by floor. Then climb into where the work is. And there's tarpaulins cover everything, but there's massive bulges of water and one of them split. So I'm getting buckets under there. I'm literally getting a spade and shoveling water into buckets because there's a floor of tarp. Trying to catch it all. And then there's another bulge right at the front. I'm really worried it's going to collapse. So I go outside, climb up to the very top. So basically above the second floor with a bucket, scooping water out and chuck it on the floor. This is about 5:30 now. 2.5 hours of working all over the house, trying to sort it out. It was horrible. In a raincoat, using my iPhone as a torch. Running out of my dining room with boxes of with Nike boxes of all my trainers that I've never worn.
Don't get them ruined, mate.
Then getting my wife's wedding dress.
Any damage then? Or any long-lasting damage?
Superficial bulging plaster and stuff. It's tough and depressing. So 6:30, I'm awake and feeling horrible, having just spent 2.5 hours working, unloading water, and then I watched UFC then.
Fucking. So, and when you said the plaster's bulging, is that areas you were going to get replastered anyway, or you're going to have to have them done now?
Well, it was looking like it anyway because it leaked a few days ago, and I kicked off with the builder.
Why don't they fucking cover it properly?
They thought they had. This second one, I mean, last night's rain was mad, absolutely mad. And you know they did their best, and I went up there and now I've seen what their best was, and it was, you know, they'd built a whole shelter. I guess there's only so much you can do without having a real roof.
Mate, it sounds like
you're a bit quiet there.
I'm saying it sounds like you need a drink to recover from all the
yeah, I really do.
The stresses you had of this morning at 4 a.m.
Yeah, I'm much louder than you.
Well, that's probably because your headphones are loud, aren't they?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
I'm pretty loud. I'm right next to the mic.
Yeah, fair enough. Take it back. Yeah.
So would you?
So why segue you, there.
Yeah, try to before you
I'm really sorry.
You're tired though, aren't you?
Very, very, very tired.
So
I watched a lot of UFC today, though.
Definitely, alcohol's something that'll help. Then, what's your
especially when I've got to clear up the house before my wife comes home.
Have you told her?
I've given her the headlines. Yeah, I waited for a bit because I didn't want to upset her, but I didn't want her to walk into it either. So difficult.
Okay.
Anyway, can we drink, please?
Yeah, I'm not stopping you. What beer of the week have you got?
I have got a beer from the Brovar Stu Mostov brewery in somewhere in Germany,
Right.
and it's a Pilsner.
Nice.
this little guy in the front of it.
Hmm.
And it was in my beer 52 haul.
Oh, fucking hell. These
which
guys
is basically the only beer that I'm getting at the moment because
these
of this
guys
loft
just want
conversion.
fucking commission from you.
Why do I always mention it?
Not half,
Or
yeah.
do I?
Well, but it's not a problem, but yep.
It's because it's like I say, it's the only beer I can afford at the moment because or fancy beer because of this loft conversion.
Well, especially if you're gonna fucking need more plastering, because that's not cheap.
Exactly.
I've got a beer from Anglesey in Wales. Went there recently a couple of weeks ago on holiday.
Looked like a lovely
pale
trip.
ale. Yeah, it was nice. Got lucky with the weather. So a pale ale. I'll try this.
Cool.
Let's see how it sounds. Crack it open. That sounds good.
And my dogs didn't know what was going on.
I bet they didn't. Should get used to it. It's 2 nights on the spin now, though, isn't it?
I've got a mattress down in my dining room, in my sitting room, front room, and I come back down after all this work, and my dog, my beagle, has crawled into my bed and found the warm spot where I was and taken full advantage and curled up in it.
Play to him. Sounds like
hard
he needed
work.
the stress of last night.
Cheers, mate.
Yep. Cheers, Chutney, viewers, listeners. Look at the colour of that. It's lovely.
Yeah, it does look great, that. That's a very nice Pilsner. Spot on that.
That's really good. Very impressed by them. So let's talk about
for Pilsner, isn't it?
It is a bit, maybe a bit malty. Let's talk about the UFC you're watching early this morning. See, it's the most recent event held in Abu Dhabi, Fight Island, headline between I almost fucking forgot them because of your story. Irene Aldana versus Holly Holm, a 5-round fight. Did you watch it, Chutney?
Well, I certainly did, yeah.
And good. This is one of the only couple of fights on the card I watched. So, full disclosure. So Holly Holm hadn't won for a while, and she was coming into the bantamweight division to fight Irene Aldana. 5-round decisions, was very comprehensive in the end. I think she won all 5 rounds against
won all 5 rounds. One
judge
had 1 round, 10-8. I think I agree with I agree with the 50-44 card. The one judge
that she won 1 round 10-8.
Yeah, the rest, the other 2 had it 50-45.
She's very impressive for someone who's been written off a fair few times over the last year or so, really, hasn't she?
Holly Holm, I'm not on my own when I say she's one of my favorite fighters. She's so humble, nice person. The preacher's daughter, they call her.
Yeah.
And she came into MMA as a boxing world champion, and she said after this fight, and everyone knew it already, that she didn't come into MMA to be a boxer.
Yeah,
she came in to be a mixed martial artist, and you've seen her develop over time. Her groundwork has improved over time. Her ability to sustain the time on the ground has just improved throughout. And here we are with some great ground and pound against Irene Aldana, but also just a technically brilliant performance, and a stamina and everything was great. And she looks in such great shape as well, didn't she? She looked so strong.
She did. This was her first fight in a while that she was fighting someone that probably wasn't up to championship standard, you'd say, because if you look at her resume, she's gone from killer to killer, really. If you count the likes of Cyborg, Amanda Nunes, Shevchenko, Misha Tate, Rousey, so she's always fight top tier caliber ladies fighters. This one was probably maybe a step down. So I think this would be a telling fight. If she lost this fight last night, it would have been maybe a death knell for what was to come for her career. But I think it really throws her back into the bantamweight title picture now.
It really does, and interesting card in that regard, really, with Jermaine Durandamy being on it as well, which no doubt we'll be talking about shortly.
I think one of the best things that comes from a Holly Holm fight is that on the lead up, the UFC Twitter account always manages to find the the clip from a few years ago when she fought on the same card as Conor McGregor, and the Irish fans started singing to her.
Yeah.
And I just love that. She
I
looked,
love you, Harley, and
yeah.
if it's quite all right.
And like to your point, she seems just like a really nice woman, and she just didn't know how to take it. Like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was great. She
It
took
was
she took
great,
it
wasn't it?
as best as well as anyone could.
Yeah, as an American, not really getting it at first. These
Yeah,
fucking
that as
crazy
well,
Irish
yeah.
people pissed off at 1 in the afternoon. But it was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, superb. Yeah, like I assumed you were going to bring up her knocking out
The head kick. Yeah.
Ronda Rousey, one of the arguably the biggest upset in UFC history. We are talking about pissed off Irish guy singing to her, which is also what she's known for. Yeah,
It is, yeah.
bloody.
Yeah. So you think she's back in the bantamweight division now? Title picture, I should say.
I think that means yeah. I mean, arguably, it's to bring up the third fight on the card.
No, go for it.
Well, in fact, let's talk about it. So, Jermaine Durandamy,
Yep.
former champion, I think the original champion in the bantamweight division, if I'm not mistaken. She defeated Juliana Pena with her first ever submission. She is a kickboxing champion with something like I've got it here, 46-0 kickboxing record.
Savage.
Yeah, came to mixed martial arts, fought in Strikeforce and now UFC, and so she's only had 14 fights, but she's won all of them. Well, not all of them, far from all of them. But her only recent losses are against Amanda Nunes.
Yep.
And yeah, it was her first submission in all of those fights. Again, someone who's improving their game. She went for a Von Flue choke in that fight. She ended up getting the guillotine against a submission artist as well. Yeah, really impressive performance. Her kickboxing was perhaps a little slow. She was careful against a ground fighter, but ended up beating her on the ground. So yeah, very good performance. Got performance of the night, and yeah, well deserved.
Yeah, she looked good.
It was a good fight, that one.
During Durandamy got a bit tarred by the not wanting to fight Cyborg a few years ago, and I think
it was
UFC
very strange.
Hung her out to dry, didn't they? And it
yeah.
wasn't particularly wasn't good to see, really, because I think it sort of put an asterisk against Durandamy's name when it shouldn't have done, really. But she's very technical on her feet, like you said.
Yeah, still working as a police officer in the Netherlands. She's a lot more active nowadays.
Obviously, adding to her stand-up ability, we've been able to go for a first submission win. So well done. Anything else on the main card you want to call out, Chutney?
Carlos Felipe beat Jorgen de Castro. Jorgen de Castro, you might remember, beat Juan. What's his name? From the Contender Series. I know I'm making that up. Actually, I'm just looking now. He lost to Greg Hardy in his last fight. He beat Justin Taffer from the Contender Series. An upset fight, and just lost his last two. And yeah, an uneventful and unimpressive loss to Carlos Felipe, who was an interesting fight. I love to fight, trying to get De Castro to fight him throughout, and was vocal on the mic after with one of those lovely Brazilian accents, which I'd love to do an impression of, but I can't.
You're too tired, mate.
I'm too tired.
The one card on the one fight on the whole card I was looking forward to the most was probably one of my favorite fighters, the return of Carlos Condit.
Yeah,
headlining the prelim cards versus Court McGee, another experienced fighter. Condit hadn't fought for almost 2 years, and he seems to leave a big gap before he comes back. And every time he's lost the last few fights, so it was a bit concerning what we'd see. But
lost the last 5, lost 6 of the last 7.
Yeah. And some of those, he wasn't really that competitive, and he'd been dominated in a lot of those fights. Yeah. However, it's good to see him back last night. He beat Court McGee, unanimous decision, 3 rounds to 0. I thought he was brilliant, wasn't he?
He was good. He bought. He's beaten another veteran there, who's coming to the end of his career. He was very good. To clarify, he was careful. At the same time, that I think I've described that as before, or probably better because I wasn't so tired, but laser sighted targeting system that he has that is striking, is brilliant.
Pinpoint.
Training with Brandon Gibson, one-on-one in Brandon Gibson's garage, converted garage for this fight.
Yeah.
It showed. It was very broke caught McGee's nose in the first round, I think.
I think it was the last punch of the first round. He was winning the first round anyway.
Yeah, dropped him, didn't he?
It was all precise striking, quite laser focus, like you were saying, and then he dropped him right at the end, and his nose just smashed to the side, and you thought, "Fucking hell!"
Just he kind of like butter spread his nose across his face.
The one thing I'd say is the old Condit, I think, would have gone in for the kill in round 2 and 3. I think he was just happy to not necessarily coast it, but I think he was just happy to get the win. I'd like to have
old Condit hadn't lost the last 5.
No.
I understand that. Natural born killer has grown up into natural born careful fighter.
Natural point.
He was born a killer, and perhaps not so much for killer now. Yeah,
he's not going to push for any kind of championship status anymore. Not, no. But he's definitely a name on a card that you could promote and put him in the right fights. I don't know. There's a name of Nick Diaz is talking about coming back to fight again. I know those guys have fought before, and Diaz probably wouldn't want to fight Condit because I think he was a bit pissed off with the way that fight went.
Matt Brown, I've heard as well.
I think there's a couple of even rematches on his record that I think I'd like to throw him in. Robbie Lawler, he lost that by a split decision.
That's a good call.
But they're the kind of fights I'd like to see him go into. Great to have him back. It was quite interesting.
It's the Veterans League, isn't it?
Yeah, Dan Hardy was doing the commentary, and during the montage at the beginning, they have to show the clip where Dan Hardy got knocked out by him. He's like, "Oh, yep."
He must be desensitized to that now because we've seen it so many times.
Yeah, and it helps that he's done it to other people, I suppose, doesn't it? It's not as though he's just been a punching bag throughout his career. But
that's something I wanted to talk about, actually. Dan Hardy's hair. It's awful.
Describe it.
It looks like a wig now.
Yeah.
It's like he's still got the mohawk, but he's let it grow out so much that he has to kind of do some kind of almost side parting comb over thing with it. So it looks like a wig, and it's awful.
I'll have to refresh my memory because, to be honest, I can't. It didn't offend me as much that I'd remember it.
It's like he feels he still needs some kind of rock and roll haircut.
Yeah. But still needs to be a bit PC.
Or can't just have like the red mohawk like he used to, which was, of course, an awful haircut.
High maintenance as well to look after that.
Yeah, was it?
Well, if you got to spike it up every time you go out.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got no idea, to be honest.
Well, and shave it all the time.
Yeah, definitely that. Yeah.
So that'd be.
There was a couple of other fights certainly one worth mentioning. Duško Todorovic, a Serbian guy, beat Dequan Townsend. Really good fight. Worth watching if you've not seen it. Lots of stand and bang stuff in there, but also some good technical fighting as well. And the chins on these two, incredible. Good big refereeing in this event.
Yeah.
I liked I forget his name now, but I like the referee stopping Carlos Felipe and Jorgen de Castro doing nothing, or the fence grabbing. Really got them good on that.
Right, okay.
Mark Goddard, as per usual, excellent, telling people to be active and let them know that he's going to stop the fight otherwise.
I thought he could have, or some referees could have stopped the McGee Condit fight right at the end, because McGee looked out on his feet at the end of the first round, I should say, but he gave him a chance to stand up and then let him carry on.
When he dropped him?
Right at the end, because he stood up and he was like, oh, because he could have called it off there, but
rare to do that, and that doesn't need to really, does he, when he's got a minute to recover, and then you could just see how he's in the start of the next round if he's
recent referee decisions have been a bit out there though, haven't they? So he wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, speaking of which, actually, in the footage I saw a clip that I forget what it's called, but behind the scenes of Fight Island. Oh, by the way, I had something good to say at the start of this. I meant to say,
I had something good to say.
Just like the Venga Boys, we've gone back to the island.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say at the start of this. Anyway, I've even got it written down in my notes.
Is that why you didn't share your notes? I'm like, that's not going in the show.
I'm keeping it for myself nowadays because sometimes I might say things and I want your reaction.
Right. Yeah.
The
Venga Boys.
Exactly. Exactly. My man. I've got something else actually. Have a look at this. My Sean O'Malley t-shirt.
Oh, nice.
Remember I mentioned it?
Yeah, you did.
I bought it just before he lost. So it's gone down in value since I bought it. It took about 6 weeks to arrive, and I'd forgotten about it, to be honest. I'd got a note in the post saying, "Yeah, you've got to pay customs for Canada."
Yeah,
Canada. I was like, "What the fuck is this? What's in Canada?"
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'm quite excited, so I'll pay.
I've been like that before. Like, fuck the shit t-shirt.
And then it arrives, and it's a Sean O'Malley Irish t-shirt. It's supposed to come from America, but it's come from Canada. But anyway.
Yeah, it's weird when you get that card. You think, "Fuck!" And it's so long ago since you've ordered something. Like, I can't remember. What is it? What is it?
Yeah, it's just like a charger.
Yeah, fucking cheeky.
Yeah, so expensive in the end. Wow. I thought I got away with it when I paid the regular postage.
Is there anything on the back, or is it just a green t-shirt with O'Malley on the front?
Hold on, I'll turn around.
Sugar Zero, nice. You like sugar as well, so that's quite fitting. Speaking of fitting, yeah, is that the right size?
Yes, large. Always large nowadays.
Yeah, and then he lost a fight. Oh well, he'll be back though, mate. It's a nice t-shirt.
He will be.
Nice t-shirt.
Yeah, thank you.
Should we talk about the previous UFC event, or is there anything else you want to talk about? Fight Island, Venga Boys.
What we talk about when I got too excited.
Oh, a YouTube clip around Fight Island.
Oh yeah, well done.
Documentary.
That's Fight Island.
Well done for listening to me.
So it's on ESPN Plus. I imagine it'll be on BT Sport at some point, so I might try and find and get that recorded. And yeah, it really goes behind the scenes. And I imagine, logistically, we talked about it in depth at the time about how difficult it would have been to put together.
Yeah, because you were like, it's just propaganda. It's just UFC propaganda. Like, yeah, it is, but it is a logistical feat.
Well, of course it was, and that's what this is as well. But doesn't mean that it's not real. Doesn't mean they're not putting these efforts in.
I know, yeah, but we discussed this last time. And I was like, it's amazing. You're like, yeah, but it's still propaganda. Like, oh yeah, okay. And now you've just turned around a bit. You've not.
I'm just making sure you don't fall for these things. Then.
Cheers, mate. Because I've bought me tickets over to Fight Island. Did I tell you?
Well, there's something I need to tell you about that. No one goes in and no one comes out. That was one clip of it. There's a security guy at the door of the fence, and he says that. It's like, well, how do they have any fights? And is it, or if they can get in, let's say they can, no one gets out. There must be loads of fighters there now.
Right.
Or Eddie Hearn's got COVID. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. His dad has as well, sadly. His dad's old, so I hope he's all right. Yeah. So it had, and in quite some length actually. It showed Dana during the Peter Yan stoppage of Jose Aldo, and how he took loads of shots before the ref stopped it. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And Dana was kicking off, properly kicking off immediately. It was actually quite interesting to see. So if it shows stuff like that, I mean, they might just show the one bit of behind the scenes Dana which you want to see, but if they've got more stuff like that, it would be very interesting. So yeah, I'll try and find that on BT Sport. Other people should too.
It's quite handy having this mute button here when you've got beer burps. You can just, have you ever noticed?
Yes, we've got Blue Yeti microphones, or Blue Yeti microphones, and they're cool.
Yeah, makes us feel even more professional than we did before. So hopefully listeners and viewers will appreciate the the uptake in audio.
Send us comments if you think we can do anything with our sound. If any of you are budding engineers,
well, they'll have to speak to our sound engineer, won't they? Because we've got one on the payroll. So
yes, he's paid exactly the same as us actually, because we're such a socialist.
Quality. Yeah, it's all about quality in this firm. Talking about equality, this is very tenuous. Equality. There was a fight that the previous Fight Island event, which I thought would be very, very close, the main event, which turned out to be far from the case. Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa for the middleweight title of the world. I was really looking forward to this fight. I thought it was going to show the strength of both fighters on the resume. Both undefeated going into it, 19-0, and I think Costa was 13-0-ish. First time in a long time that a title fight's gone in with two undefeated champions. It didn't last very long, and Adesanya, fucking hell, I think he's stepped up a level, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, just like the Venga Boys then, they went back to the island. And this was the first event back on Fight Island. And so we had Adesanya and Costa.
Yes.
That was a seamless edit, wasn't it? We had Adesanya and Costa, both undefeated. Costa, you've brought this up before, Bohashinia. Isra, our sabbatical co-host,
yes,
talked about him in our first episode, was it?
It was our first episode.
Yeah, and finally he's made it all the way undefeated to the
championship fight, wasn't it? I was praying he wasn't going to win. Because on our first episode, Israel said he was going to be the champion one day, and we were ripping.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, there's time for that, and I will talk about that. But yeah, so finally, undefeated, they both face each other. We've got Adesanya, who's a great counter fighter, really just
he's superb.
Yeah, he's really good, good.
I'm sold. I wasn't.
And we followed his career, certainly his UFC career, very closely as well.
Yeah.
And we have Bohashinia, Paulo Costa, who is just raw brute strength and talent as well, of course, and well trained.
Yeah.
And I don't think I really analyzed. I think I was so excited about the build up, the trash talk, the undefeated fighters, that I didn't really analyze it properly. And had I done so, I think the obvious point is that Costa just wouldn't be able to reach him. And while I don't think Costa really pulled the trigger properly, he couldn't reach him. Just couldn't reach Adesanya. I think that's the story of the fight, and Adesanya found it very easy to beat him.
I in my light analysis beforehand, I thought Costa would struggle on the basis that I thought Adesanya would just outpoint him, outmaneuver him, and win a 5-round decision. What I was very impressed with and surprised by was the way that Adesanya was able to quite use his power shots and hurt Costa early doors, I thought. I didn't see him winning via a finish, especially. And the way it happened, I was really impressed. I thought Adesanya really went up a level in terms of his stardom. I thought I think you see you see what this fella could be, both in this division and also if he starts to look above and beyond the middleweight division. I think there's fights out there for him that'd be very entertaining.
That is a very good way of putting it, a restrained way of putting it.
Yeah,
I have heard other MMA commentators talk about what he should be doing next. Daniel Cormier saying not only is he the best middleweight, but he's the best light heavyweight as well.
Yeah,
what a ridiculous thing to
he's
say.
Giddy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's giddy, and you know we enjoy his giddiness, but
I think
that's a stupid thing to
and
say.
he's not, and I think he's counting the light heavyweight division with John Jones not being in that mix, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. And talking about and everyone's now saying, he needs to fight John Jones. I mean, yes, they have back and forth. Yes, it's gone even further in the last few days.
Yep.
Some say too far. Talking about parents, I think, or something.
Yeah.
Not really.
His mother, John Jones's mother, I believe.
Yeah, and I think that's gone both ways. But anyway, but really, there is still stuff to do in the middleweight division. John Jones is supposed to be heavyweight now, and supposed to be either building his way up in there or going straight for the title fight. So yeah, go ahead and do that. Jones would be big for him, and then I suddenly get drawn into analyzing it. But you know what I mean.
Do you know the thing with Adesanya? I just find him there's an element of cringiness about him, isn't there? Do you ever pick up on that? There's some of his chat after the fight, and you think
maybe.
I think he's quite cringy, and I think that's why I probably haven't warmed to him over the last few years. And he's just
okay. So you're not much of a fan then?
Of his fighting ability, yeah, but I think just his chat, I think it's a bit.
Well, I enjoy his bravado, but I think he takes it a step too far. I don't think that's really what you're saying.
No, I just find him, but I think he's just a bit. Some of it doesn't come naturally, I don't think, to him, and then some of his put downs and stuff. You're like, I don't
Really?
know.
I think it's pretty
Yeah,
sharp.
do you think so?
What I
Dunno.
didn't like is the humping thing he did at the end of the fight.
Yeah.
Well, that was.
So he was sort of down on top of Costa, wasn't he? And the referee
Yeah.
pulled him off him, and he sort of
There is playing that arrogant bravado fighter, which is fun and entertaining. There's when there's a kicking someone when they're down. There's humping them while they're down. I mean, that is just that disgusted me.
I think that can be forgiven. It was literally the last second of the second after the fight, wasn't it? So I don't know. Adrenaline's
He
quite
showed
high,
his
though.
true colours,
Yep, perhaps.
and he doubled down on it since, tripled down.
Yeah, but it brings eyes to him, doesn't it? And he's a big time player now in the UFC, where
He certainly is, and becoming bigger than the sport. Well, not bigger than the sport, but transcending the sport.
Big call, that mate. Bigger
Well,
than the sport.
he's becoming well known beyond it, is what I mean.
Yeah.
He's not bigger than the sport.
No. Talking about the middleweight division, we've got our boy Robert Whittaker's fighting Jared Cannonier soon. That could be if Whittaker wins that quite convincingly, he could be back in the title mix again. Although he was beaten quite convincingly, wasn't he?
I'd like to see it again, though.
I would. I like Whittaker, and I'm not sure he showed his best side that fight in Australia.
I think he's a little bit battle worn now. The Romero fights.
Those Romero's, 10 rounds with him is going to be.
But there's Till and Hermanson who are fighting. So there is still
heating
competition.
Up a bit,
yeah, there's still competition in that middleweight division. And for that talk to be going on when they've just crowned a new light heavyweight champion, which I think you're about to go on to now.
Yeah, it was. So they have the first new light heavyweight champion that isn't called John Jones or Daniel Cormier in about 6 years. Jan Blachowicz defeated Dominic Reyes in the
11
second
years,
round.
I think, isn't it?
11 years, is it?
It's 11 years.
Shit. Yeah, that's crazy.
Check on that now.
Beating Dominic Reyes, who fucking hell, that beard's pretty strong.
Nah.
He looked good, Blachowicz, didn't he?
Yeah. One thing that Daniel Cormier did do this week is correct my, certainly not direct to me, but correct my pronunciation of the new light heavyweight champion. I was calling him Blachowicz, but it's Blachowicz.
Right.
I like a W sound.
And it's Daniel Cormier who's
who gets everyone's name wrong. Everyone, including his best mates.
He's just an excited little boy, Cormier, though, isn't he? Just gets
he's incredibly enjoyable, which is why their podcast is doing so well.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's only one podcast that the listeners and viewers need to be concerned about when it comes to MMA combat and boxing.
Is. So Dominic Reyes came into that fight after fighting pound for pound best John Jones, and the majority of people thinking that he actually beat John Jones, but the judges thinking differently. Came into fight for the vacant light heavyweight championship after John Jones relinquished it to move up to heavyweight, and then lost to Jan Blachowicz.
Yeah, he went in strong favourite, I think, and Blachowicz was very impressive. He's a fucking big boy, isn't he?
I thought he'd win.
Did you?
Yeah, we had discussed. Had we done so, I would have said I thought he'd win. Of course not with much confidence, because you can't be in when the
big boys are going at it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I thought that Polish power would do its job, and it really did.
A 37-year-old Pole.
What a story! What a story!
You've got a lot of things in common with him, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm 36 years old actually, nearly half. But
3/4.
Still time for me, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Similar physiques.
Yeah, I got big cans.
Steady. I was very impressed with him. I was really happy for him as well. He seems like a decent bloke, doesn't he?
Yeah, he is, and he's pretty humble and doesn't want to fall out with anyone. At the same time, he's still a personality.
Yeah, because he's been talking with going back and forth with DC this week on Twitter. Have you seen that?
Yeah, but that's settled now, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there was Helwani interview in midweek that I think they settled it by then.
Reyes has got to be pretty devastated.
Took it well.
Fall from grace, though.
But yeah. But that it really does spice up that division with Jones gone.
Jones gone.
it was annoying when we I think both you and I thought Gustafsson beat him first time round, although that was many years ago now, even though it feels like more recent. And
He's had close fights last fights have been quite close, haven't they? The Dominic Reyes one, like you said.
yeah,
Anthony Smith wasn't particularly convincing. OSP a bit earlier
was
than
it
that.
Thiago Santos? Was that a close
Yeah,
one?
it was a
Yeah.
close one. It was.
And then Reyes, I mean, that was the most controversial, I think.
Yeah.
He's been scraping through, and we've talked about him before, how he's changed his style to a more boring one and just scraping through these fights.
Yeah, more conservative.
And so I think it's good to have him out of there, really, and get more competition going. We've got Glover Teixeira back on form, and hopefully Anthony Smith will find his way back in. Uzdemir's got a victory recently. Johnny Walker's moving his way up.
Mixing things up.
It's an exciting division now.
Yeah,
and the champion before John Jones and Cormier all those years ago, Mauricio Shogun Rua is still ranked. Or I say still, he hasn't been ranked for the whole period, but he is currently ranked in the top 15.
Is he? Oh God. I don't know if that's probably an indictment of the quality in that division.
Perhaps he's had a bit of a resurgence there, hasn't he?
Yeah, he beat Nogueira not too long ago. Do you remember? I think we reviewed that on the podcast.
We did.
UFC 253 had two great main events. I think they were main event and co-main event with the middleweight and light heavyweight title on the block. Was there anything else within 253 that caught your fancy?
There certainly was. Yeah. There was Brandon Royval who weighed missed weight in the flyweights. The flyweight division is back though, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are some
scrappy.
Exciting fighters in there. It was a very exciting, fast-paced fight. Both dropping each other. Ended up with guillotine by Brandon Royval against Kai Kara France, who was a teammate of Israel Adesanya. And if you saw at the end of his fight, and he always talks about his team and how much they mean to him and everything else, he was moaning about people missing weight against his teammate, against his teammates, and ended up winning.
Yeah,
and that their compensation wasn't good enough. And that was immediately after in Dana's era in the octagon. So yeah, fair play to him. I think he.
Yeah, I was going to say it was a noble cause, and maybe it's something that should be looked into.
Yeah,
people stopping in the stop losing weight early doors and then just giving up.
Exactly. Yeah, it's gamesmanship.
Did you see Diego Sanchez on this card get beaten up by Jake Matthews?
Just clicked on his name to go to his record to
because he won the previous fight, if you remember, but it was like a stoppage, wasn't it? He got an eye poke, and I think it was a bit of
an illegal knee,
and it could have been
so it's disqualification.
Yeah, but a lot of people thought he might have been gaining upon that because he was definitely losing that fight. He's in a bit of a bad way, Sanchez. I think Dana White's calling for him to retire, but he's the kind of guy who's probably never ever going to retire. Be fighting bums out in backyards, won't he?
Well, I think that's a good opportunity to start to discuss our old pal Conor McGregor.
Yes,
who hasn't had a mention yet in this episode.
And a bit boring, isn't it?
It's interesting, I think, actually.
Do you? Oh, sorry. Right, I see what you mean. The him back and forth between Dana, I should say.
Yeah, well, about he fought Cerrone, and it was somewhat of a tune-up fight, a rare appearance in
January
in UFC, and he said, "I want to fight 3 or 4 more times this year."
Yeah,
and set it out, and that sounds great. It's something that I've always called for. Be active, fight who's in front of you. Of course, it'll have to be a half decent name because the money has to come together.
Yeah,
but build your way back up to a title fight.
Yep.
Whatever way you might do it, or some kind of exciting marquee fight. And he has been saying to Dana, because he's released the
screenshots of the messages,
which I don't think is cool. Saying all of these dates where he wanted to fight people. Talk about Sanchez, but a while ago, not as worrying. His career wasn't as worrying as it is now.
Yeah,
and Dana said some less than complimentary things about Sanchez within those messages, and therefore for Conor to release them is not
It's not
cool,
good.
is it?
No, it's not. He was trying to prove a point, wasn't he? That he is asking for fights, or he had been asking for fights, but he could have quite easily edited that somehow, not to
exactly
sort of drop Dana in the shit about calling his own roster out.
Yeah. So it's and then he's talking about he's been talking to Poirier on Twitter saying let's have a charity match in Dublin. Of course, Dana wouldn't allow them to do that, and they wouldn't be able to do it without his say so. Which may trigger, and the fact that the reason he's not been fighting is because there's not an audience, there's not a gate.
Yep.
And UFC make huge amounts of money
from the revenue, isn't it?
McGregor fight.
Yep.
Which is such a shame, and
it's a waste, isn't it? It's a waste that we're not seeing
him. If he'd take a relative pay cut based on the fact that there won't be a gate, I mean that would be great. I don't know if he would do that. But it's his career and his income, so I'd understand why he wouldn't. But then again,
and I think he's willing to fight though, isn't it? Because he knows that he'll bring the pay-per-view numbers in, so that makes a big thing.
Well, maybe they get more on the gate than Conor McGregor knows that.
Yeah,
and that's why they can't negotiate that.
And I think a lot of it is down to the UFC wanting him to be the first fight they can do live in front of thousands of people. And it's a shame because we had the pod straight after the McGregor fight versus Cerrone, and we were looking forward to the McGregor season 3-4 fights in 2020.
Yeah,
win, lose or draw, it didn't really matter. It was just about getting him in there and seeing what he could do. And I'm worried
I think it's no one's fault really. I think it's as simple as that. It's no one's fault.
On this one, I think I veer more on the McGregor side. I feel more for McGregor than UFC. I think that they could throw him in there if they wanted to. And I think he's proved that he'd be willing to have a fight, even if it was maybe not a Sanchez, because I think that is too much of a stretch, but someone in the top 10 to 15.
There's certainly players there, but Poirier is the obvious one.
And there is talk that they're trying to make that an actual fight, aren't they?
Diaz 3.
Yeah, I'd do that. I'd just do something, see what happens with Khabib and Gaethje, and go from there. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame. I thought you were going to move on to the McGregor boxing.
That's another thing, but that's another distraction, like the Poirier charity match. But there are talks ongoing between Zuffa, UFC, between McGregor's representatives and Manny Pacquiao's representatives for a fight. Yeah. Pacquiao would destroy him in 3 rounds.
Yeah, probably. I'd watch it though, but I can't really be honest with it. I'm done with all that kind of sideshow stuff. Anything else from the world of MMA or UFC you want to call out before we touch on some boxing, Chutney?
We have had some retirements. Daniel Cormier, we talked about him before. He has retired. Ricardo Lamas, a lightweight veteran. He is retired on a win. And John Fitch has also retired. So massive veteran names.
Talking about someone who potentially could retire, possibly not, but Tyrone Woodley lost versus Colby Covington. That's 3 in a row. Was never really competitive.
No, he's lost 15 rounds in a row now. It's very concerning. Just didn't pull the trigger.
No,
I just didn't understand his game plan in that fight.
I think he's lost it. I think he's just lost that instinct. That it's a shame because I don't want to see Covington win and then all the shite.
I heard his name suggested for Condit by a journalist this morning.
Well, I think that the talk is him versus Masvidal. Oh, sorry, Woodley, you mean?
Yeah.
Ah, right, sorry, yeah.
Who versus Masvidal? Covington. Yeah.
The two boys.
And there is talk of that rather than the BMF fight rematch. So Nate Diaz is likely to lose that spot and lose a bit of his momentum really there, I think.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like someone who'd be bothered.
I don't think he is he? He's not banging on Dana's door to get back in the cage.
No.
Should we talk about any highlights from boxing that you've
there's one other thing we need to talk about. One other gentleman, a newcomer to the UFC. Do you know what I'm going to talk about? Khamzat Chimaev.
Yes, right.
He is someone
Glad you pronounced that.
Has joined the UFC at the first round of Fight Island fights. On July the 16th, he beat John Phillips in 1 minute.
Welsh John Phillips.
Sorry, second round. First minute of the second round. Welshman with a submission. Then 10 days later, he beat Reece McKee, newcomer to the UFC. Beat him in within 3 minutes. And then in September, a couple of weeks ago, fought Gerald Meerschaert, more of a known name in the UFC, a proper test, and knocked him out in 17 seconds. And a great knockout.
I was going to say it was vicious as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, really good contact, real power. He fought in 2 separate divisions. He is a whirlwind suddenly in the UFC. He talks like he'll fight anyone. He'll fight champions straight away. He is lining up, I hear, a 5-round main event already. Says he's been promised it, which despite the interest in him, I'm surprised that's happening so quickly. But
depends if it's a big name, maybe, or relatively big name, they're putting it on a fight night card, won't they? And
yeah, maybe. Although I've seen a couple of fight night cards coming up, so it's not too hard to beat one of those.
No, they're not great, are they?
No, still have too many UFC events, but these deals will be what they are.
Yeah,
but he's very exciting. He's very good and more than just one to watch.
Yeah, DC's on his coattails, isn't he? He's calling him out. Boxing. Anything on your list you want to call out?
Yeah, a lot. So last night there was it was a top rank event, I think, and it appeared on BT Sport over here in the UK. Jose Zepeda knocked out Ivan Baranchik within 5. Did you watch this? I sent you clips of it.
Yeah, I saw it this morning when you heard.
Within 5 rounds, there were 8 knockdowns.
Yeah.
And I read this and I thought, well, how did they not stop the fight? But it was each of them.
Back and forth. Yeah.
They were basically, I think there were 4 all by the end of it in terms of knockdowns. But the 4th one for Baranchik, unfortunately, was a stone cold knockout in the 5th round.
I've never heard of either of these 2 guys, but fucking hell.
Yeah, fight of the year already. Yeah, great fight. BT Sport have tweeted some good clips of it, so have a look at those if you've not seen it. From there, Showtime Boxing is back in earnest. The Charlo brothers both fought on a double header. Excuse me. Corona. I should have done the mute thing, shouldn't I? On the new mic.
I've been all over that.
So they fought on the same card at Mohegan Sun, of course, empty arena, and they're both building up their wins. I get them mixed up. I think they're twins. Are they twins?
Yeah.
Jermel and Jermal.
Yeah.
Jamal Charlo. A unanimous decision on Sergey Derev. I've practiced this before. Derevyanchenko, who is an accomplished fighter. He's only lost to champions. He took Triple G 12 rounds in pretty impressive performance. But this was his moment to really nail on who he was. So, we were looking for a finish. He didn't give it. He did win, which is fair enough to a very tough guy. Ideally making his way into the Canelo talk, which I want to get onto shortly. And then his brother knocked out Jason Rosario to retain his light middleweight championship, both title fights. So yeah, they're both continuing on in their winning ways. I think they have 1 loss between them. If I just check that, yeah, on Jamel's side. Yeah, so the talk is there. But have you seen the state of Canelo and DAZN?
It's not good, is it? It's not a good working relationship at the moment. He's taking him to court, isn't he?
He is. Them and Golden Boy Boxing.
Yeah.
And he said, because I think it's the fact that these businesses are struggling, COVID-wise, basically.
No one's coming through the doors.
no one's coming through the doors, and that is a huge part of that revenue, like such a huge chunk that similar to the McGregor situation, is it worth them putting on the fight, because they have to pay, as per the agreement with Canelo, so much money, tens of millions every time he fights. And he said, "I'm not scared of any opponent in the ring, and I'm not going to let failures of my broadcaster or promoters keep me out of the ring." Harsh, I think, but I imagine they're the words of his lawyer or agent rather than him, really, to hopefully sort out some kind of other way. They in fact asked him to reduce his purse because of the lack of a gate.
And
apparently,
an understandable position, isn't it?
Yeah, and apparently he has reduced what he would take as a result, but they haven't been able to agree on anything. But there is talk of DAZN going bust, and it's a monthly subscription rather than the pay-per-view model. And we all thought this was the future, but it turns out when COVID strikes, no one's going to pay for nothing.
It's just no one could predict. So I do think it was a business model that could work, but just in the current conditions.
Well, I was hoping it was the future. Really, it seemed like the right way to go on these things.
Next 6 to 9 months, things will pick up.
Josh Taylor a couple of weeks ago, the Tartan Tornado, which I think is an awful name, but anyway, defended his WBF, IBF, and ring titles. First round stoppage of a Thai, Apinun Konsong, and what else? We talked about Eddie Hearn. He's got Corona. His fight camp is reopening. And tonight, it's on tonight.
Is it?
Joshua Buatsi's on tonight.
Yeah, you mentioned before we came live on air that Dillian White. We haven't really discussed that loss on his record after Povetkin got him.
Yeah, I don't think we did. I might be wrong, but I don't think.
I know I'm sort of umming and ahhing. I'm not sure if we did or not, but that rematch has been booked, doesn't it? I think it's
November.
Yep.
Late November, I think. So next month, though.
Immediate rematches.
We are already in October. Amazingly.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
But Buatsi's fighting tonight. He's fighting Marco Kalic, defending his WBA International Light Heavyweight title. He's undefeated so far. Almost all stoppages, 2 points wins, and he's been big names are talking about him now. Dmitry Bivol, world champion, is talking about even coming to the UK to fight him, as much as that means at the moment. So yeah, there's a lot of talk around him.
Yep.
Oscar De La Hoya's coming out of retirement. Have you seen that?
I just get bored of it all, isn't it?
And the horrible things that Dana said about him when he found out.
I don't find that very interesting. See what happens of it. What comes of it. Conscious of time, is there anything else you want to call out?
Yeah, there's more unboxing. Inoue, the Japanese, incredibly exciting 118-pound fighter. He's defending his WBA and IBF titles end of this month, same night as Chisora Usyk. So that's a big night.
Another fucking pay-per-view, that, which pisses me off.
It's the first. Oh, is it?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, the Chisora fight is,
but the Inoue fight is Top Rank's first big event, really, since COVID. The boxing's taken a lot longer to pick up over MMA, or certainly UFC. It's just UFC. It's been paving the way, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bellator last night. We've not talked about Bellator, actually. James Gallagher, training partner of Conor McGregor, submission choke in the first round, I think. Might be wrong, but I think it was the first round. So he's doing really well. Great character. If you've ever heard interviews with him, he is funny, and he's a more likable version of Conor, I'd say.
Yeah,
he's got that arrogance,
loss, hasn't he? And I think
coped with it well. Although McGregor always has coped with loss as well.
But he was quite early on in his career, wasn't it? It was like Gallagher.
He's pushed very quickly, wasn't he? Unlike Bellator, really, but I guess with a European fighter, they need to make the most out of him.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I agree.
Lomachenko's got a fight coming up as well.
Has he? Who's he booked in?
No one I know. Teofimo Lopez. It's a lightweight unification fight, so even more belts for him. continue on his
Nice.
record-breaking career. Here's a good one for you. Tommy Coyle. We all know him. He was in the Olympics, wasn't he? Hull boxer.
Yeah.
His brother has just signed for Hull football.
Oh, right,
Louis
has he?
Coyle. Yeah, well, I say just. It was just when I started making these notes. It was in August.
Wow.
3-year deal.
The dedication.
Yeah, and his elder brother Joe is a professional golfer. Talented family, and you often get families who are talented in different sports, but that's quite a variety, isn't it? Boxing,
really
football, and golf.
Golf.
All very different.
Fair play to them.
Yeah.
Looking ahead for the next couple of weeks, we'll be back on, and we should be doing a review show in 2 weeks' time because UFC 254, which I can't wait for this event, B versus Gaethje. It's been a long time.
And it's a decent card as well.
It is a very decent card. I was going to
usually on these, big ones, Khabib being a big attraction. Usually they pad out the rest of the card. But yeah, we've got Whitaker and Cannonier on it, Volkov, Harris, and there's one that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah,
Magomed Ankalaev and Ion Kuchalaba.
Oh,
this is the fight when Kuchalaba did the spaghetti legs when he got hit by Ankalaev and the referee stopped the fight. Do you remember?
Oh yes, yeah.
And then they rebooked it for Fight Island, but Kuchalaba tested positive.
Yep.
And now I'm really glad that they have booked it again because I thought it'd go off then.
And this is Fight Island again, isn't it?
It is Fight Island again, yeah.
Stefan Struve's fighting Fire Tuivasa. That should be
oh wow.
Yeah, Stefan Struve is obviously he's got a recognizable name. Yeah, really looking forward to that. Just quickly, who's your pick for the championship fight?
I think that Gaethje is a great opponent for Khabib, but I think he'll lose.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think he's so strong. He's probably the best wrestler he's faced. Well, I might have a quick look at Khabib's resume. Yeah,
probably in terms of.
Although we never see him on the ground, but he's got the college credentials.
Yeah.
And so I think he will be able to cope with his takedowns really well. And he's so tough that I expect him to at least last a very long time in the fight, if not the whole way through.
Khabib's first fight since his dad passed away. I don't know if that makes any kind of impact, but
only positive, I'd suggest. I don't think he's the kind of person to get too rattled by that.
So we'll definitely be coming back with our new mics in 2 weeks' time to review that, I think.
Yeah. In the meantime, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we'd be very grateful, or even review this podcast in many different places where you can.
Little segue, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. You can find us at FTAB News. You can find me at Chutney News. No guesses as to who made up the Twitter handle. You can find Den at Braemar Soldier, BRAEMAR Soldier. You can email us at ftabpod@hotmail.com. And
closely monitored email box. Obviously.
Exactly. If you need anything else from us at any time, let us know. If you've got any comments you think we can improve our show. Well, I don't know. What are you doing?
You can't improve on something of this quality, surely.
Dennis is giving you 2 fingers, apparently, listeners, if you are listening rather than watching. Anyway, and there's nothing else to say, but
for those about to brawl, we salute you.
Yeah.